So we're finally here, 2 days to go. We're about to see some major changes when it comes to our legal and social landscape. So the first question, is Ontario ready for what's to come?
Yes, Ontario is ready for legalization on October 17th. The federal government made the decision to legalize recreational cannabis across the country. Our government was elected not long ago in June, but it was one of our top priorities. And the Premier, the Minister of Finance, and I, as well as other ministers, got to work on this file. We set 3 priorities: protecting youth, keeping our roads and communities safe, and diverting people from the illegal market. And so we've been working towards this date since then, and we are ready.
Okay, now one thing I get asked about a lot right now is, I guess, a decision to allow public pot smoking. So as of Wednesday, you can spark a joint or smoke a joint anywhere you can smoke a cigarette. So that includes parks. You can smoke a joint on the sidewalk. You just pretty much have to stay away from playgrounds, doorways, schools. Why did Ontario go in that direction?
So Ontario is aligning cannabis use with tobacco use under the SmokeFree Ontario Act. And there are a few reasons. We did extensive consultations with different stakeholders, including municipalities. And we heard from municipalities that they didn't want one size fits all. They wanted flexibility. They wanted the option to have local input. And so they wanted a provincial framework of general guidelines that they could then make changes to. And so there are certain municipalities like Smith Falls that is looking forward to cannabis tourism. And they want to be able to smoke, they want people to have the freedom to smoke on golf courses. And there are other communities that don't want it at all. So municipalities have the option through their bylaws to restrict use further. In the city of Toronto, Mayor Tory had said that he was concerned that landlords in buildings would make it so that people could not consume cannabis in their buildings. And so if you could only use it in a private home, then you're creating 2 groups of people, those who could use it and those who couldn't. But most of all, we heard from a number of healthcare stakeholders, including CAMH, that there were serious concerns if you only allowed people to basically smoke cannabis in a private residence, that you were really increasing the exposure to secondhand smoke. And so there were a lot of health risks associated with that. And so we had a lot of considerations that we needed to weigh when we did this, and we thought that this was the best approach.
Okay, I guess one argument is that recreational weed can be psychoactive, and so that means you can get high or buzzed or stoned off it. You can't walk around drinking alcohol in public. Why is weed being treated differently than alcohol?
Well, for the reasons that I just explained, those are the reasons, because yes, it is impairing like alcohol, but it's different from alcohol, and so we should look at it in its own way. Look, the federal government decided that recreational cannabis should be legal across this province, and asked each province to create the right regime for them. And so that's what we've done. As I said, municipalities wanted some flexibility so they could either allow it or further restrict it. So we think that going with the SmokeFree Ontario Act is that kind of a tool. But most importantly, we think that given the health risks associated with secondhand smoke, it gives people, it addresses that concern.
Could we be seeing regulation for things like pot cafes and vapor lounges and designated spaces for cannabis in the near future?
Lounges are something that we'll probably look at in the future, but right now there are no plans to do that. We think that by going with the SmokeFree Ontario Act, we've addressed the places of use issue, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay, so the cannabis retail framework in Ontario, also a hot topic right now. There's no cap on the number of licenses that I guess can be handed out. I know that over the weekend, Mayor John Tory did pen you a letter, and he did touch on some of his concern over, what the cannabis stores will look like in Toronto and how they will fit into our neighborhood. So I guess my question is, are we going to see pot shops popping up on every corner? In a city like Toronto, are we going to see hundreds of these businesses?
Well, it's uncharted waters, so it's hard to predict what the market will look like and what that framework will look like. As I said, our goals are to protect youth and undermine the illegal market, and so that's why we went with a private retail model. We've got to follow the market and where demand is. Otherwise, we won't be able to undermine the illegal market. People will still be going to places where they shouldn't be doing, should not be, to purchase cannabis. So, in terms of Mayor Tory's concerns, we're going to be working together with municipalities, especially Ontario's largest city. And I was heartened to hear in his letter that he wants to collaborate and share information, share data that they're collecting, because this is going to evolve. As the market takes shape, we want to be able to respond. And in terms of caps, we want to make sure that the market grows where it needs to grow, but we still, through regulation, we will be able to place concentration levels, manage concentration levels. It's still too early at this stage of legalization to determine what the right number is, but it's something that we'll be able to do later on through legalization once retail stores are up and running in April.
Will municipalities have a say in how many cannabis stores pop up in one neighborhood? Let's say Ossington, there's 8 people who want to open up a shop there. Can the city say, no, there's too many?
Well, the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario is the regulator and will be the agency that is making those determinations. If someone wants to apply for a retail authorization for a license, they will apply to the AGCO, which will then conduct due diligence on that person, extensive background checks, criminal background checks, look into their financial background, make sure they have no ties to organized crime. Then once they get that, they can apply for a store license, and at that point there'll be a 15-day notice period, and local residents as well as municipalities will be able to comment in that way. And we're looking at a way for municipalities to be able to write to the AGCO if they have specific things that they want the AGCO to take into consideration when the AGCO is looking at awarding licenses. And so municipalities will have an opportunity for input in those ways.
Okay. I guess we have to talk a bit about the black market here. There are still dozens of illegal dispensaries operating in Toronto. I know that the government has put them on notice, and you sort of gave them an option: close down by Wednesday and apply for a legal license. We'll let that happen. But if you don't shut down, you could face a $250,000 fine and a lifetime retail ban. So my question is, on Wednesday, on October 17th, if those illegal dispensaries are still operating, what's going to happen?
Well, they won't be able to apply for a retail license, as we said.
Are we going to see enforcement, though? Are we going to see them shut down on that day?
The penalties are very high, and so there's an incentive for municipalities and for enforcement to do that. My job as Attorney General is to create that kind of regime so that people know that they should not be operating illegally. They shouldn't be today, and they shouldn't be after October 17th. And we've been very clear about that. But we really wanted, in order to undermine the black market, we really wanted to be able to provide people who have been operating illegally a path towards legitimizing their business if they wish to do so. But we expect anyone who operates in the retail market to do so with honesty, integrity, and in the public interest. And so we expect them to shut down and make an application to the AGCO, we hope that a number of operators will be able to do that. We think there are business opportunities for small business owners who may have been operating illegally. We want to give them the chance to legitimize their business, and we think it's important as we look to undercutting the impact and the breadth of the illegal market in Ontario.
I've just one more question. Okay. Okay, one more question. Okay, here we go. This is what editing is for. It's brilliant. This is a big one. Okay. For those right now who are still dealing with charges from pot possession, how are those cases moving through the court system? Are they going to be thrown out?
Well, they're going to continue moving through the court system, because if you purchased cannabis today, you would be doing so illegally. And so you knew that you were breaking the law when you did it. And so if you purchase cannabis after October 17th, or if you wish to, you can do that legally through the Ontario Cannabis Store, but that will be the only legal method of purchasing cannabis until April 1st, when we have retail stores in place.
So these cases are still going to move through the court system. I'm guessing you don't support amnesty then?
They knew at the time that they were breaking the law. And as I said, they knew October 17th they would be able to purchase cannabis legally online, and then be able to do so in person on April 1st.
Are lawyers really going to be able to argue this?
I'm so sorry, we really do.
Or I mean, is it possible that they could get off?
Shauna, I'm very sorry
Okay.
to get going.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
I hear you. Okay,
All right.
thank you. All right.